Hi everyone, welcome back to part 3 of the 2000 WRF400 resurrection, I guess you could call it, because it's being resurrected. So in the first two videos I was focusing more on the rolling frame side of things, the wheel bearings, the brakes. Ended up having to do the steering stem bearings. We've put bits and pieces like this that was snapped off. The clutch cable, I should say, was dead. So it did run before. When I say did, it still does, but we've got things like the radiators missing here. And the reason was that when I was working on this before, I was noticing a little drip of coolant sort of basically down on the ground here, sort of thing, in that area. So I noticed the radiator was leaking, so off it came. I've got another one to replace it with. I've got some nice silicon radiator hoses to go on, and so once we've done that, then we can fire it up again. Haven't done that for a while, and take it from there. So we'll probably get into the carburetor and things like that to make it run better than it does and start easier. And I've got a few other things that I want to do. We'll just see how far we get in this video. So without further ado, let's kick off. Right, so just a few things I've laid out here that I want to fit to the bike. This was the old radiator. You can see it's kind of been bashed. It's got a leak down there and there. It's more of a parallelogram now. So this is a used one, but it's in much better condition. It's not leaking, or so I've been told, but there's no signs of leaking, so you know, you can't see any of that. So it's a good used spare, so we'll be putting that on. Got a nice set of silicone hoses to go on to bling it up a little bit. We've got these kind of go on here somewhere. They direct the air into it, so we'll work out. Like here, they sort of go like that. Anyway, we've got those to go on. Got some bark busters to go on. So if you've ever skinned your knuckles on a tree branch or something when you're riding through the bush, you'll know why I'm putting those on. Right, a few more things to go on. We've got a nice brand new chain and the set of rollers that the chain sort of goes over. So they're kind of not there at all, so who knows how long they've been missing. We have carburetor kits. So this is the main kit. It's got all of the little bits and pieces in there. So this one's for the mid-body. So I've seen on other videos that you can have a lot of trouble if the mid-body gaskets are leaking. And we have an accelerator pump kit. So that poor old Carby is going to get a real birthday. And additionally, we have a petcock or fuel tap repair kit. So that is leaking too. When you put fuel in it, it drips. So things like that is what's going to happen in this video. Okay, so we are back up on the bike lift, and one of the first things I want to do is get this cooling system back together. So I want to get these silicon lines on. So we've got one to replace down there. There's one poking through there. There's another one down in there. That's where the other one's poking through from the other side. And we have another one there. I think that's it. So let's start getting these old hoses off and get these nice new silicone ones on, then we can mount that radiator on the other side again. So I might just replace these with the new ones as I go, so I don't lose track of what goes where. So here's our new one. Looking good. We can't get to that one in there, or this one down here, so tank's going to have to come off. Oh, that one's broken off. The head snapped off there. So that might be interesting getting that off. So that needs to be trimmed about there somewhere. There we go, that's better. And there's the last one. Try and get these clamps in an orientation that you don't need to take a whole pile of things off to get to them. If they're leaking, you can just reach in and give them a little nip up. Okay, I think we're just about set to fit this on. I've got the hose here, going to go on here, this will go in there, and we've got 3 mounting points, so let's get that on. So we have this little overflow pipe just to go on there now, and that's all in. Right, how confident are we feeling here? This system wasn't leaking before I put the new hoses on and the new radiator, so I'm just going to chance it and fill her up. Are you dripping? Well, that's put a dent in the plans. Not sure if you can see that, but that is cracked through there. So that must have cracked with just me taking the old one off and putting this one on. Wow. Okay, back to the drawing board. So here's what's going on here. This pipe is in good condition, so I thought maybe that was corroded and all crusted up, but it's good. There's no corrosion in there, but seems that the problem is this O-ring. I don't know what's going on with that, but it doesn't look real good. So I might have a rummage in my O-rings, see if I can come up with something better for that. And until I'll order another radiator, but I think I'll see if I can just put some of that two-part putty on it and just seal it up just temporarily while I'm waiting for the parts to come in, so that I can fill this system and run this engine. Right, can't believe it. I think I may have just found the perfect size. Fits on there nice and snug. So I'll put a little bit of silicone grease on that just so that it'll slip into there without dragging on the edge too much, and we'll try our luck with that. Okay, I've done a couple of little repairs and I've just filled the system up, and it actually is not leaking, so we've got a winner there. And my temporary putty job around here is not leaking either, so that's going to be good enough for the interim. Okay, so our next job will be putting the seal kit through this. So like I said earlier, this thing drips, so to get this bike fired up, I need to put fuel in here. Obviously I need to fix this drip, so let's get this out, pull it apart and put the kit through it, reassemble. Okay, we have our fuel tap on our mostly clean workbench, and I think the first thing we should do is run through the kit, just see what we do and don't have. Here's our kit. If you hear a lot of noise, kids next door are having a good old scream, so disregard. Okay, we got the open mouth gasket. We've got that one on there. That's got to be through in here. Same with that. Where we got new screws. That's nice. Should be seals. Right, new screws for here as well. That is nice. Spring washers. Okay, I'm guessing they are for here, but I don't see any spring washers on here. I do see seals. Okay, no replacements for those. Anyway, we'll press on. Right, let's get this back together. And there we have it, good to go. Okay, we are fitting our tank back on now, and one of the bits and pieces that was missing off this is the hold down here. So I've got a little handful of parts and we'll get that put back on. Like that. And the other bit that I've got is a screw and little piece there. And that is for putting the seat on properly. So I've got a nice new bit of fuel line here, so we'll get this connected to here. So hidden down in here is the float bowl drain. I'll just crack that off and see if we get anything. Yep. It's pretty mucky. Right, that's coming through a lot cleaner now. Starting to come together. Right, so we're just about to have a go at giving this thing a start for the first time in, I don't know, a year maybe more. So let's see what happens. So as you saw, and no doubt heard, this thing finally fired up, and it's freaking loud. And that's partly or mostly because this thing here is just, there's no baffles, there's no nothing, it's just straight through. So it does run a little bit rough, and it's got a bit of a flat spot when you try to just crank the accelerator on. So I think the next step would be to get this carb off. I suspect there's a little bit of something going on in there. I think the accelerator pump's not working properly. It's shooting some flames out the exhaust, so it seems like it's either not burning the fuel or there's too much. So yeah, I think that's our next job. And one thing I did learn, this is the hot choke, this is the cold choke. It starts so much better when you pull that out. Okay, let's get this carb off. So I need to reach in here to get this lot off here, the push-pull cables for the throttle. So I might just pop this coil out of the way just to give me some room to work. Found it. So as is the norm with this bike, most things that you pull apart have got something broken with it. So don't know how well that's showing up, but these cables are done for. Gotcha. So we have our carb on the bench. So the idea here is obviously get the float bowl off. We've got a kit for in here. We've got a kit for the accelerator pump and a kit for the mid body here. Just give this thing a clean up. I want to check the jet sizes and the clip position and see that it's all standard, and hopefully by the end of it this will not only look good but work good. So let's dig into it. First glance it doesn't look too bad. A little bit of dirt down in there, but I've seen a lot worse than that. So here's hoping the rest is pretty good like this is. So we've got a bit of damage around here. It's distorted, so someone's been in here having a go at this. So hopefully if the kit doesn't have a new one of these, we'll see if we can just clean that up a bit. get this one out now, and we'll just wind it in and count how many turns so we can put it back in the correct spot, assuming that's correct, of course. That's 1, 2. So, in order to get the needle valve and slide out, we have to get this. You can see somebody's had a chew at that as well. So we'll get that out. That slide will come out and we'll be able to see the position that this pin's in. Maybe not. Let's try getting this throttle position sensor off first and see if that will draw out this way. Bearing in mind I don't have a diagram for this, so I'm just winging it. Right, turns out I only had to take that out, so we'll do that now. So we are in clip position 3 from the top. So here's our throttle shaft, and on closer inspection it is bent. Hopefully that's coming out, so it's right there, kicks off like that. So I'll have to see if I can gently persuade that back straight again. Right, so another couple of bits to get off. Just these hot and cold choke here. Maybe I'll take this off. I'll just take that measurement there before I unscrew it. Get this manifold off here. This off here.
and chuck the whole lot in the ultrasonic cleaner, and then start the reassembly. It's about 9mm. Oh yeah, there's a seal in there. Ooh, some more jets too. Glad I took that off. The one with the largest hole goes there. Good thing I checked. That smaller one is slightly blocked. Water's a bit mucky from the last time around, but it's only mud. It's only mud. I think I'm going to have to get a bigger ultrasonic bath. So we have our carburetor in a million pieces, and just looking at it like this looks pretty intimidating, but if in doubt, I've got the video of me taking it apart. So I think how do you put a jigsaw together? One piece at a time. So that's pretty much how I'll be approaching this. Right, the report card on this. This is our main jet. The standard main jet is 165. This is a 172, so this is bigger. I've got a 165 coming. The needle jet clip position is as per standard. The rest of the jets are all standard size, so I'm all good with that. This thing was really dirty, not as in muck in the float bowl, but just like this is the mid-body section, and all in these tiny little bits there. Someone had put some sort of sealant in there, and it just took ages to get all that muck out. Remember I was saying this was bent. Well, it's straight now. I actually just sat it on the edge of, this is a wooden table, I sat it on the flat bit there, give it a little tap with a soft face hammer, and it straightened it. So happy with that. Apart from that, I think it's just going to be a matter of seeing what's actually in the kit and what bits are going to go back in and what bits aren't. So I'm going to get the kit out and see what's inside. I won't film that because there's a million little pieces in there as well. So I'm just going to slowly but surely reassemble this thing, and hopefully we'll have no spare parts left. Right, wish me luck. So after a lot of angst, here we are, back together. I've used the old shitty old hoses because I don't have any new ones, but I've blown them through and they'll do for now. They'll serve the purpose. So I would not recommend doing this job if you have never messed with carburetors before, because this one was pretty advanced, especially in around in here. There's a lot of very small gaskets that could easily fall off while during installation, or miss a line or whatever, and you'd end up worse off than when you started. So the next thing to do is get this back on the bike, and we're going to have to replace those throttle cables too, but that's okay. I've got a nice new set to go on, so I think we should crack on with that. Okay, it is in. So that went in a lot easier than it came out. Well, at least it seemed to anyway. Right, so we'll pop over to the other side of the bike and we'll get these new throttle cables in. So here's our new throttle cables by these guys. So they're aftermarket, so fingers crossed that they aren't too long or too short or have the wrong fittings. Anyway, I won't start ranting. Let's just see if they fit. Oops. Oh yeah, look at this end. It's not much better. So the next thing I want to check is to make sure that this valve timing is correct. So I'll be getting these two off, lining it up on the timing mark. I'll show you that when I do it. But first I'll be getting that spark plug out so I can wind the engine over without compression. Ooh, glad I dug that out. It's a bit scungy looking. CR8E. I'm going to get this middle plug back in because we're dribbling. So I finally managed to get that valve cover off. I had to take that top mount off there. There it is there. So we have our flywheel set up on the eye mark, or the line, whichever you want to call it. So according to the manual, that is the mark for top dead center for valve timing. You can see there's the T over there. So according to the manual, that's the mark you use when you want to do the ignition timing. So we are spot on here.
So we can see our cam position, our exhaust cam, the dot is parallel with the surface of the head, and for the inlet we've got a hot cams SK012. So I can see there's a dot here and there's a dot here, so that would suggest that this is about a tooth out. And when you come over the other side, if we line up where those cam lobes are, you can see this one is appears to be slightly higher than this one. So if we advance that one another tooth, that would be same as that. So I'm thinking we might be a tooth out on the inlet. So I'm going to check the valve clearances now, and according to the manual it's between 15 and 20. So let's get in there and have a quick look. So we'll go with the 15 first. That's really loose. We'll go with the 20. That's not much better. $20 is really loose on that one, and that one. Okay, so inlets are loose. So the spec says the exhaust valve's clearance is between 25 and 30, so we'll go with 25 to start with. That just squeezes in there, so that's pretty good. 25 will not go in there. So we have a tight exhaust valve. So I'm going to get that cam chain off and get those shims out and change them over. And to do that, I just have to take that chain tensioner off, get some slack on here, remove those bolts, and yeah, that's the whole process. Measure the shims, put it back on, re-measure it, yada yada yada. So I'll bring you back when I've got a result. Okay, quick update on the progress. So there was only one that was within spec. That was, I've called that exhaust 2. The exhaust 1 was tight and these were all loose. This one had a shim in it, these had none. So yeah, no shims. That's probably why they were so loose. Right, we are all done, except for those last couple of bolts I've got to put in. But I ended up biting the bullet and getting a shim set because, as you saw before, these had no shims, so I had no starting point. So I didn't even know what shims I needed. So we're good here on the exhaust. They are both between 25 and 30. And the inlet all three of them are between 15 and 20, more like 15 or just over, but they're all good now. We are pretty much smack on parallel with the surface of the head on the exhaust. I've got an original cam in here. Just going to get the bike running again with the original cam, and then maybe later on put the hot cam back in. And that looks a little out, but when you sort of shimmy down, it's pretty much close enough, and we are smack on. So we're good to go. I've turned it over a couple of times by hand just to make sure nothing hits. So we have our tensioner there, you saw me do that. So we're all good to go. So I've got a whole pile of stuff that I had to take off to get this job done. So I'm just going to put it all back on. I won't film it because you saw it come off. Well, most of it anyway. We'll get it all back together and we'll see where we are from there. Maybe even see if we can get it to start again. So the reassembly is going very nicely, but we've got to a point where I've got to put the plug in. We've just got this sitting in there to keep any dust or dirt from going straight down in there, but you remember the old one was looking a bit sad, so we have a new one. So before we put it in, we'll check the gap. So the spec says between 0.7 and 0.8 of a mil. So as these wear, they get bigger, so I'm going to go for the lower end of the scale, 0.7. A little loose, so we'll just give that a little tap. That is beautiful. So let's get this in. So the finishing touch will be to put the chain on and the chain guide rollers. We have those things here. So here's our chain. Now guide rollers, we've got a big and a small. I do know that they go, one goes here. You can see there's absolutely nothing there at all, so I don't know how long that's been missing, but the other one goes down here. Once again, there's absolutely nothing at all there, so I'm not sure which one goes where. I'll reference the diagram, see where they go, and get this chain on. And then this bike will be able to move under its own power for the first time since I've owned it. So that's going to be a huge milestone. Okay, let's crack on. Okay, so small one goes here, big one goes down here. I just had to undo that so I can get my hand in there, but that should go straight on. So after a whole pile of rummaging, I managed to find a bolt that was the right size, because there's no thread in there. And a nylock nut. Okay, we've got a little bit of slop there, but this train will stretch, so we've got plenty of adjustment left there. Nice and free to rotate. We have chain, finally. So here we are, the big reveal. I'm pretty sure we're all done. When I say pretty sure, there's always something, right? So, well, here it is anyway. So first thing you'll notice is we have bark busters on. I just put them on. I didn't want to film it because I'm getting in keen to just get it put together and rolled out here, complete and ready to go. So we'll just do a quick walk around. Everywhere I look on this bike, it's making me think of the work that I've put in to get it to this point, and every little bit of it was worth it. So headlight's not hooked up yet. I've got to modify the wiring harness. As I rolled this out, I did notice we've got a bit of a fluid leak here, so we might need a rebuild kit for that. And I've noticed this a long time ago, but we have some cracking in the tank here, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to fix that or if we're going to need a new tank. But I guess as long as the fuel stays down here just for the moment, that's enough to get it started and maybe even take it for a little ride up and down. So I am really happy. This looks great. I just want to keep looking at it. So I guess let's start it up and see how it runs now. Really loud, but that's just responsive. Still a slight hesitation there, but that's pretty crisp. Maybe a little tweak with the mixer screw might iron that out. Right, shall we see if it moves? Right, that actually went pretty well. I only just rode it around the yard a little bit, but that's the first time I've ridden it. So it starts real easy. First kick, you don't even have to pull the hot choke out. Kickstart does get stuck down on the foot peg, so I just have to get used to not kicking it so hard. Anyway, we'll call it there. I hope everyone's enjoyed watching this bike get up to this point. I may or may not have future plans for it. We'll just have to see. It's been consuming a fair bit of my time, so I've got a few more things I need to attend to, but we'll see where this goes. I really like the power that it feels like it wants to just go. So see if we can get it out and run it through its paces. Until then, thanks everyone for subscribing and following along. Consider giving me a like. Consider subscribing if you like what you're seeing. And until then, I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.